We're live. 7th and 8th grade. How are you guys doing? It's Harry Pedigo. And today we're going to be discussing some ways that you can brainstorm topics for your upcoming articles and newsletter. The theme of this week's newsletter is trade. And man, we can go a whole lot of different ways with trade. This will be especially easy, I think, for your historical article to find a topic to analyze and discuss. But I want to talk about how when we're writing, it's paramount. It's incredibly important that we have a very solid direction to which we can move towards in our writing. I think that a lot of times when we're asked to do some kind of writing, whether it's an essay, whether it's research, whether it's creative, things can get overwhelming and can be unclear, right? And so it's really important for us from the very beginning to have a clear idea as to where we're going to go with the article. And by doing that, having that clear idea from the beginning is going to really help you avoid rambling in your work. I think it actually helps us avoid messy sentences, run-on sentences, messy paragraphs that are not organized very well. Those bad habits, so to speak, in writing seem to emerge when you don't have a clear idea of what you're doing. You're hasty about it. You're rushed. You don't know where you're going. So when you are working on your articles this week, spend some time doing some pre-writing. Do some pre-writing and make sure that you have a very solid concept. So if you're looking at trade, and let's say you wanted to talk about paper money or currency here in the United States, the U.S. dollar. Maybe you wanted to research that, and so you would have kind of an idea, and you might write down, I want to explain to the audience how paper money started. You could use that. You would have to, research and understand that before you start explaining it, because if you don't know what you're talking about, you can't very well help your audience understand what it is you're talking about. So you really want to have a clear goal in mind, and every single sentence should be supporting that goal, moving that goal forward. And that way, if you say, well, I'm going to explain to my readers when did paper money start? Where did that idea come from? Every single thing that you write about, every sentence would be aimed at answering that question. Very simple, topic that you could really focus in on. You've got to have a hardcore topic. If you were doing an article on the Iliad, and you wanted to talk about how Achilles sort of trades his honor, or trades his honor for having a stable family life, right? You want to explain exactly how he trades one thing for the other. In this case, honor for family, or family honor, family life for honor. And you would want every single sentence to help support, explain, and make sure that you get that message across. Don't forget about ethos, pathos, and logos we talked about semesters ago. Thinking about I need things, pieces of evidence to help me get my point across. And I could, let's say I'm trying to brainstorm, things I would need for an article on trade in the Iliad, like we were just talking about. You might say, well, here's an example. Or maybe you go from the textbook, or maybe you find a quote online about the same thing, and that would be an example of kind of ethos, right? Finding a person who's an authority on the subject and using their quote to help prove your point. Long story short, have a direction when you write, and make sure that you pre-write, write a little bullet point outline about how you're going to make that article flow, and that'll really help you avoid a lot of mistakes. Now, this is 7th grade. You guys can tune out. God bless you guys. Love you so much. I'll be helping you guys out on your articles throughout the week. This part is for the 8th graders. 8th grade, we're talking about book number 7. More specifically, I'll tell you exactly what I'm talking about today. I'm talking about pages 109 through about 112. 109 through 112. So we know that right before book 7 begins, Hector and Paris leave Troy and rejoin the fight. They rejoin, and they're very aggressive. They're very strong fighters. And then Athena notices, and she ultimately finds a way for them all to take a break, the two armies to take a break. And that way that she finds to do this, she says, let's have a duel between Hector and one of the Achaeans. They have a really difficult time getting people to join or to volunteer to fight. And in particular, I like this quote on page 111, the small paragraph. Menelaus stepped forth and rebuked them. He told them they were wrong, that they were not doing the right thing. He says, you braggarts, you pitiful cowards, not men but women, how can you let such bitter disgrace come upon us? And so we see that, again, Menelaus and Diomedes always have these lovely quotes and lovely language. I really want you to pay attention to that, the way that they really bolster the morale of the people there and challenge them, right? They're heroes. They challenge people. I want to look at one last thing real quick to help you guys understand this. On page 112, they're trying to figure out who's going to fight, and then there's a neat quote here that mentions an interesting person that we probably don't know about. Nestor stood up among the Achaeans and said, what a disgraceful day this is for us all. How loudly the noble old warrior Peleus would groan. So who's Peleus? Because he's giving Nestor, like Menelaus, is giving an inspirational speech, trying to get them like, somebody stand up and fight. Because we all need a break. We're having this duel. Somebody needs to volunteer. And Peleus is actually the father of Achilles, right? So they mentioned, we haven't really heard about Achilles or thought about him much lately because he hasn't really been in the book, but we kind of, suddenly there's a little bit of a nod to Achilles and his lineage. You know, this is the first we hear about Peleus, who is this famous warrior, father of Achilles. A neat character to maybe look into, research if you're going to do an article on the Iliad. Something to think about. I'll tune back in with you guys tomorrow. God bless you. I love you so much. Keep up the excellent work.